I feel like I'm losing my mind. Is everybody in the world blind? Please, Lord, give me a sign, a sign.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's your boy Craig, Fact the Madness. We are here today to do another show. See if we'll let a few people come in. Let's see. I have slightly different setup, so I'm kind of working through it. So just bear with me, but should be able to do the show like I want to. So let's put that there, and let's see if we can do this right here. Oh no, I took down my shared screen, so let me get it up real quick. Which will allow you to be able to see one of my newest friends. It is Living My Best Life at 60. Met her a couple of days ago, and I couldn't figure out exactly why it was that I was subscribed to her channel, because I just saw something. Either I got an alert or I just was passing by looking for lives to watch anyway. And then finally I asked her, I said, did I get introduced to your channel by Specs Appeal? So turns out that that's probably where it was. So I'll put her up. This is her channel. She's got a lot of cool things. She shared with her audience and me. I was there at the same time. That she had a grandchild and she wanted to, be able to live long and experience the joys of being a grandchild. So, or a grandmother. So she started making some life changes. So good for her. All right. Today's show. I mean, clearly, let me put this back down. There we go. And I'll put it on this because I have that. But what I really want to do is go to this right here. So let's put it. What I wanted to do was put it in. Let's see where it goes when I open it. Okay. Oh, but it's not letting me. There you go. I want to put that there for you guys. But pause it. Sorry. Bear with me. Anyway, so it is election time. We're 20 days away from elections, and I don't really consider myself that much of a politicking person, a political type person. I mean, I have been around for a number of elections when I was in the Air Force. Ironically enough, so I went in 1989, so I was turning 19 the year of an election, if I remember correctly. But I do remember as a young airman buzz about which party you should vote for. Now, um, and I'm talking about as a young impressionable airman, where your supervisors and your NCOIC of the lab, and basically anybody who was talking, were very influential in the way that I thought. So I say that only to point out the fact that there are so many different ways that we can be influenced, not only on our own thoughts and ideology and what our own standards are, if you will, but what we watch, what we look at. So, um, I consume a whole lot of content. And the reason why I do so is because I'm, kind of getting around to, figuring out how these things affect me, what my interests are, and as a person who occasionally creates content, I also want to, you know, see what's going on in the world around me. Um, so I was watching an individual, Jericho Green. I was introduced to Jericho Green on Generally Specific show. I had never heard of him before. He has some 369,000 subscribers. Um, he happens to be, I don't know if he's from San Diego or if he just lives in San Diego. I think if I remember correctly, he was in the Navy. So it's reasonable to have gone to San Diego and maybe ended up uh, living there. My mother was also stationed there, which is why I graduated in San Diego. But so on some level, I believe that he probably has some commonality of ideas that I have, and I don't really know a whole lot about him. So it's not as if I'm opposed to anything that he says. I take different things that people say with a grain of salt, right? And I try to see if I can figure things out. And he does say something interesting in this video that we're going to watch. The title being "How do we have billions for other countries and next to nothing for American hurricane survivors?" So this it says it came out 5 days ago, so it really wasn't too long ago. I can't remember if it was exactly when. Well, he mentions Milton, so I think it was probably right around when Helene was hitting, and then Milton came thereafter. My last video, if you guys haven't checked it out, um, we talked about how Milton ruined our vacation, and there are tons of other people. I mentioned this before that who were affected by that uh, storm, that hurricane, much differently and much more poignantly. I don't know if that's the right word, but more devastatingly than my family was. We just missed out on a vacation. We could reschedule it. No lives were lost, etc. But for all those people who were in harm's way and continue to be in harm's way, we send out our prayers and thoughts with them. So, but I found it interesting what he was talking about and how he was talking about it. And so I kind of just wanted to go over it a little bit with you guys. So, um, first things first, before I do that, let me just make sure to say to my mods, if and when they get here, if anyone, I didn't send out any alerts specifically to anyone, but if you come in and you're in there, very possibly you might have a link or something that you want to share, or something that comes to your mind that doesn't come to my mind and I can't figure it out, and you toss it up there. Feel free to do so. You guys know what you are doing and how to do it. So I appreciate the work that you do. And I have, let me just make sure I have some kind of like notes that I can kind of follow just to make sure don't miss anything. Oh, all right. So I have, and I'm going to pull it up here. I am not a Reddit person. Never have been a Reddit person, really. But I chose to get onto Reddit. My Reddit feed, if you will, or whatever my profile name is, u/Fact of Madness. Makes sense, right? But I've also created I think it's called a subreddit. Still kind of getting used to this, so bear with me, right? I have a subreddit called r/eyes front. Now, for those of you who have seen any of my shows, or any of the know my backstory, I started off doing auditor type things, First Amendment auditor type things, because of my mother. My mother Um, Previously, we would say that she had dementia, but she has been diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And I want to say, man, it's been progressing to the time that we have gotten to now. And then when I became aware of it, we kind of moved forward very quickly. But I had to make some decisions and start doing things for my mother very quickly. And part of the thing was getting under control her Social Security Administration benefits. And I say benefits because they were coming to her for some time. And this is not a secret as well. My mother was getting scammed. We took care of all that stuff. We found out the people who were doing it. I don't know if we're going to ever be able to recoup any of the funds that she lost, or if that person will ever go to jail. But I'm aware of who that person is, and I can monitor their activity as far as it relates to my mother. But I wanted to be able to accurately conduct business for my mother, and also be able to pass those things that I did for my mother and with my mom, um, to my sister. So I wanted to record. Turns out that Social Security Administration, which many of you all know, do not or does not allow videography in their within their space. Now, having just been briefly introduced to um, the First Amendment kind of thing, I did think it was strange, or I wondered, why couldn't I do so in public? So I began down that road, submitted FOIA requests and the like. Um, and ironically, I have not heard anything from them. Well, I did hear something from them because I reached out to all of the regional directors of each region of the SSA, and I received basically what I'll call a standard response, still saying claiming that they don't allow um, videography, and for what reason. So that's kind of the backstory of why why I got into what I got. So Eyes Front, what I intend for it to be basically is, along with many of the public records requests that people conduct or submit, is the business of being given the runaround. And I don't know why government does this, but I mean, we talk about red tape and how things take so long for things to occur. Even with the hurricane, for example, people have lamented about the fact that, um, you know, supplies were not getting to the places where it needed to get to. So sometimes with big operations comes big delays and big obstacles and the like. So I am understanding, or starting to understand, that that's the case with big government. And so I'm not surprised that during the hurricane people felt that way, and which is kind of why this video caught my attention, because Jericho Green talks about, he asked the question, let me make sure I get it correct. He asked, how do we have billions for other countries and next to nothing for American hurricane survivors? Now, on the surface, that might sound like the case, and we hear about immigration, and it's a big topic during this election period. Which, in my opinion, that topic of immigrants and our borders, plural, um, top and bottom, how we need to protect the American border, and how the immigrants are invading our country. So it interested me. So I am going to play some piece of it. Of course, when I don't have the link currently, but typically I take um, this live show and I condense it to what I would consider the most relevant points without all of the other fluff. If I go to the restroom or something like that and pause or whatever, it won't be in that condensed version. But I will also add the links to each of the videos that I highlight on any level. So be sure to go there. I think Jericho Green, he's very entertaining in many of the things that he does, and he relies on his audience to be able to give him some of the answers. I do as well, but I also feel it's my obligation or my responsibility to find the information when it's out there. And I kind of began looking through these things partially because of him. So Shout out to him for, sparking my interest in a way that would also make me dig in the background and kind of figure things out on that level. So let's see what we have with regards to, and let me make sure. I didn't even check to see how do I want to do this, because there may or may not be anybody that can confirm with me. But let me see. Let me just do this real quick. I'm gonna do a quick sound check. I can do it very quickly. This headset that I have for my phone, uh, actually, it actually has like a blinking light on it. Where is the blinking light? Let me see. Anywhere, and I can kind of hear it already. Pretty sure I can hear it. Yeah. So the test is good. All right. Now, and I told you guys this before. I don't know why, and if anybody knows, you can let me know. I have a new setup. I mentioned it before. I have this microphone, which I think is an improvement, and I will continuously try to improve the setups for the sounds. The sound is better, so that the production of it all is better for you all. But in doing so, I cannot hear from my monitor headset my own voice. I mean, I can hear my own voice, but I can't hear how it sounds to you all, which I would like to be able to do, unless I plug into, and I wanted to show you guys this, but I'm not going to do it because it's going to mess up everything. But I have something called a Zoom H6, which allows me to run my microphone, my audio into it from my cameras. And by the way, I didn't do this. Let me do this real quick. The joys of sorry. This is not quite as important, but it is. So that's why I'm doing it. Because I need to be able to see some of the things that I'm doing in a different light, different angles. So, so for all of you all who had to witness all of my glory, then I apologize, but I just had to do it. And I do this a little bit to kind of do like a sound check. You know what? It's really funny. Some of the things that you learn to do or learn about. Do you ever see when they in film, and I don't know this to be the exact truth or not, or the reason why they do this, but you know how they put the card up and they click it together? I don't know. I don't know if the reason they do that for the similar reason that I just did what I just did, because I clapped or made a snapping noise or whatever. I used to have a clicker. I did that so that I would be able to have a spot that has a peak and I can synchronize all of my cameras and sound all together. I don't know if I saw that on YouTube, but it worked for me. And we're right on schedule with what I wanted to be. Kind of just introduce myself, ease into the show, and greet anybody who came in. Which, if you come in, then welcome. If I don't pay attention, I'm actually running a show by myself, so that would be the case. So again, we're going to go to this video. Let skip this right here and pause. So it's 9 minutes long, which we can't watch every single bit of it, and I might skip through some of the parts, but you'll get the gist of it from kind of the very beginning. So I'll just let you kind of get the foundation of what it is that caught my attention. So,
well, good damn morning, Americans. Jericho Green here with you once again. Give me a follow on X at Green_Jericho, and like and subscribe to my new channel, Green's House. Big changes coming to my YouTube channel. Can't wait. Very excited. Buckle your seatbelts. It's going to be fun. So, a question. You know, oftentimes when I can't figure things out, I come to you people. You people! I come to you to help me find the answers to these questions that are racking my brain. Are you the man who wrecked the buffet at the Herald Club this morning? Anyway, real quick, not going to take a lot of your time. Why the fuck do we have billions upon billions, or as Trump would say, billions upon billions of dollars to send outside of this country, but when a natural disaster hits, like the hurricanes, Hurricane Helene, they got another one named Morton or something like that that's on the way, that's supposed to be almost category 6. I've never even heard of that.
So you guys will remember that it was purported to be huge, and I think they were calling it, similar to what he just said, almost a category 6, which none of us has probably heard of, but it was slated to be that big. Now, I don't know. I have a friend who talked about what happened to his house, and I don't know if I'm as aware of what happened through that area or beyond as I was or became aware of Helene, because there's still things going on between us, I think, Asheville, North Carolina, and Tennessee. And we have a number of people in a community or the community who have experienced or been helping in those kind of things. So, prayers are still needed out there, but it seems as though he wasn't quite aware. He even called it a wrong name. But so we'll go back.
But Mayorkas came out and said that FEMA does not have the funds to take care of the people who are affected by these storms, by these hurricanes. So why do we have the billions and billions and billions of dollars to send to other countries, but when it comes to our own people, they're tapping their pockets? Oh, hey, man, damn, American taxpayers, damn, I spent your money. I spent your money on somebody else. Damn, let me check. Oh, shit, no. Fresh out. Fresh out, American taxpayer. You know what? Our federal government is like the biggest crackhead in the world. You gave that crackhead $5 to go down to the store and grab something for you. I'm sorry, in Biden's economy, you gave that crackhead $1,000 to go buy a couple things from the grocery store, and they gave the money away to the crack dealer and bought crack with it instead. But I need that. I'm hungry. I need that food, crackhead. I need those FEMA funds, crackhead. My fucking house just washed away.
So I think you get the point of what it is that he is saying. I don't know if there's anything specifically more along the lines of what he's talking about, but again, you can watch his video. But this brings me down the rabbit hole of kind of what I thought about what he was saying. Now, if you think about it, or at least from my perspective, the way I thought about it, I think it's kind of oversimplified what he's saying. First of all, he says billions and billions of dollars to other countries. And I think in order for me to understand what I even think about that, you have to kind of understand what he really is talking about. When he says billions of billions, or when he is pondering whether it's billions of billions, like I did, are we talking annually, monthly, daily? So, I mean, it's not quite cut and dry what the budget, the spending on foreign aid, the total foreign aid budget even is in the first place, right? Any allocation that exists for foreign aid, we'd have to kind of know how it's distributed, and to what countries, because there could be multiple countries, and what is the purpose. the primary goal of that foreign aid is for what? Is it humanitarian assistance, economic development, war, which we all probably are aware of, is occurring. But those are the things I think that the questions that would need to be answered on the surface. Not just think we give all of this money to these countries for no damn apparent reason, and then the hurricane victims get nothing, right? So along those same lines, um, you have to consider the spending that occurs or would occur for hurricane relief. Now, think about it this way. I mean, we anticipate hurricanes coming and going in different areas, the Gulf of Mexico, onto the Florida side, whatever, and any of those surrounding areas. Basically, every year there's a season for it, along with tornadoes, maybe earthquakes, like in Japan, there's earthquakes, etc. But what if none came at all? I mean, what would happen to those funds in the first place? Where would they go? I mean, I don't know the answer to that question. If you do, then put it in the comments or something. But similarly, the federal disaster relief funding, how much funding has been allocated for hurricane relief in recent years? Not just recent years, but I mean, maybe for this year, but recent years and the past, because it probably would predicate or establish what funds would be available for the current year. How those funds are distributed, where does the money go? Is it for infrastructure repair, individual assistance, emergency response, etc., right? And I think I've heard also that the state for which is affected by whatever disaster has to alert the federal government that something's going on, right? Not that not that they wouldn't know, but declare a state of emergency, I guess what you call it. Um, and then of course you would compare it to other disasters and kind of gauge exactly what it is that is needed. Now, along with the lines of what he is saying, and I'm not, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that his question is not fair or reasonable. I'm just saying that I think it's oversimplified as he goes on and says we give billions and billions away to foreign countries, but we don't have enough to even take care of our own in America. And I think it's oversimplified. And so I kind of wanted to figure out what kind of agencies I would look to figure that out. And I did not know that these agencies exist, and I'm kind of glad that this kind of sparked my interest, because going forward, I would be able to take a look at these sites and go from there. So I'm going to actually, I think we might be done with that. We took a look at about 2 minutes of it. There's probably some 7 minutes left. You can check it out. I will put the link in the description. Check out Jericho Green. In general, like I said, he's very entertaining. If anything, he allows us to be able to consider some of the things we would not otherwise check out. And of course, he has that, how should I say? It's a brother checking out things and kind of giving it with no holds barred. So check him out, Jericho Green. And he has some other channels which you can figure out where those are as well. So as it stands, let's see where we would go. I have some reliable sources that you can use to fact check information. So I don't know how often we go about actually fact checking things when we find something. Like, do we go and say, I wonder where, I think that the government is spending billions and billions of dollars, and then you just stop there? I think you would actually try to figure it out. Or if you hear about the government spending billions and billions of dollars, but there's no funds available for our own people, then you would probably fact check. So I kind of looked at a couple of different ones, and I'm going to just put them up there so you can see them. Let's see, we can do this. I know that, and I'll come back to the Reddit because I want to make sure that I let people know about that as well. I know that when you have too many tabs up, StreamYard kind of goes crazy. So we have that. Living my best life. We talked about that. Okay. Hey, good to see you. I am trying to greet you all when you come in. It's a lot for me to do by myself, but it's okay. But I appreciate you showing up. Thank you very much. And you have a rent, so if you do what you do, then I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Um, so CRS reports. Now, the Congressional Research Services, as mentioned earlier, the CRS provides nonpartisan analysis and information on government spending. You can see here that you can search for reports, and they have a search tool. So I don't know if I already tried to do it, but let's just say hurricane fund. So when you type in hurricane funding, for example, there are a number of different things. It says May 16, 2018 was the first thing, but there's a number of different um, things. And who knows exactly what they are? But obviously, you have to spend some time and try to figure out exactly what you're looking for. But it's a place where you can look for it, as a start. Now, FEMA has its own website, and I'm sure it's kind of right now. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's probably current to what's going on now. Um, but let's see. And I'm sure you can answer a lot of questions specifically on how you would go about getting any funding that is available to them. Obviously, they have their pictures on there, but they have their own website, which you can find information. And I don't know if they have a place that talks about what monies they've spent or what monies are allocated. But at the end of the day, oops, sorry. No, see, let me just make sure I got my image back where I need to. I just moved my setup. That's up. Let's see. Check your disaster application. Get ready for disasters. Buy flood insurance. Know your flood risk. Sign up for training, etc., etc., etc. Now, keep in mind, none of us are saying that, or I'm not saying that government on some level sometimes is slow, maybe not the most efficiently run in the localities that they are, which which by the way makes me consider something we're going to talk about a little bit later about um, how our vote counts as it relates to local things versus the big picture, which is our presidential election, for example, right? Excuse me. So there's FEMA. The other thing that we have, which is, and I've never heard of this, and I'm actually interested in kind of digging a little bit further into this particular website. It's called Government Accountability Office. Now, the GAO is an independent agency that audits the federal government. They may have reports on disaster relief, spending, and foreign aid, for example. So they would be able to uh, let us know distinctly, or even more succinctly, I think that's the word I'm looking for, how the spending compares. That spending that we have for foreign aid and for FEMA, for example, or for uh, disaster. So I actually want to check that out too because I got to it, and I didn't have time to kind of completely go into it, and I did this. Like I said, I was prompted to look into these things after I saw Jericho Green's video. And, I don't really know if he has a mission, so to speak, but I'm sure he would be pleased to know that something that he surmised or thought about kind of elicited the type of response which I had, which is to kind of research things. So the GAO, view topics, view agencies, bid protests, and appropriations law, etc. Uh, you can recent reports and testimonies, but there's a number of different things that you can check out from here. So I would say between those three pieces of information or pieces of resources, you should probably be able to get your answer. Now, I haven't found a definitive answer, but I think on the surface, instead of being compelled to think otherwise. And then when I say otherwise, I mean compelled to think that we're doing this, spending billions and billions of dollars without even considering or taking care of what we should be doing, which is, in this case, disasters. And if it's not being taken care of, does it just happen? Who's responsible? I think that's the question I want to know. Who is responsible for it not being taken care of? From the highest to the lowest. When I say the lowest, I mean closest to the ground. You know, logistics. I mean, logistics is a big part of it, right? How do you get things to where it needs to? How do you get stuff to be able to scratch the itch? So anyway, okay. And the other thing that I wanted to kind of touch base on as well for this subject, and we'll move on, is about the time frame. The statement implies that statement, meaning that let's see, what was it? Oh yeah, I asked. When we talk about billions and billions, are we talking? First of all, I mean, what constitutes billions in context, right? He's talking about a lot of money. Again, we're talking about annually, we're talking about daily, monthly, and then what was allocated in the very beginning for disaster fund anyway in the first place. So at the end of the day, I think it's interesting to have the question. We can say these things, but I think we owe it to ourselves to say, do we actually know what we're talking about when we're talking about these things, and do we understand what's going on? In this case, I'm not saying that he is clueless about the subject matter. I just think that it's just oversimplified when it comes out. And admittedly, I think he will admit that he's saying, I'm just kind of thinking about these things and I want you to tell me whether I'm on the right track or not. And on some level, I think if we are spending, you know, frivolously, I don't know if that's the right word, if we're not spending our money responsibly abroad when we should be, especially when we're talking about, conflicts here and there, and then we have something happen in America and we don't take care of it, then obviously that's problematic. So, all right, so that is that. Now, the next thing that I wanted to talk about, why don't I have, now I feel like, I hope, I don't know if that's still here, if you are. Well, I'll just have to check it out. I have to check out the replay of this broadcast, figure out, one, if the background music is at a reasonable level where you can hear me, and if my mic is too hot. I'm moving around a bit. Maybe I just have to kind of be able to logisticize my own self. We are working it out. Okay. All right. Now, again, we're 20 days away from an election, from the election. I'm pretty sure it's close to 20 days. In fact, I got something in the mail. Let me read it. I mean, we can, if anything, this is a public announcement, public service announcement, as they say, for North Carolina. So, So it says cast your ballot by Tuesday, November 5th, 2024. Whichever candidate you support, your choice is an important one for our future. Now, I will get into something that my wife and I were talking about, which kind of touches bases on that. But the voting options for the November 5th, 2024 general election, early in person is from October 17th, which is tomorrow, through November 2nd at 1500 hours. I'm sure that's Eastern Standard Time, local time. Election day in person, polls open from 06:30 a.m. to 19:30 p.m. So that is 6:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. By mail, your ballot must be received by 19:30 on November 5th. So 7:30 p.m. on November 5th. It has to be received by. Don't be putting it in the mail at that time. Excuse me. And if you feel like you need to mail it in by that time or on that time, then you probably need to find a polling station. And if it impacted by Helene. Now, that's interesting that this only has Helene on there, but apparently, well, it's relevant to those areas who are still struggling after Helene is hit. So, for up-to-date voting information, visit ncsbe.gov/voting/upcoming-election/Helene disaster recovery. That's Helene-disaster-recovery. So I'm not going to be able to show that. I didn't take an image of this, but if you live in North Carolina, you most likely got one of these in the mail. Specifically, I think it was telling me that my record for voting is established and that they would like for me to continue to vote. Now, I don't. Obviously, everybody probably has gotten one of these. I also got in the mail. I got from the North Carolina State Board of Elections, um, official election mail. Okay, it says attention voters and potential voters, residential customers, and it talks about the judicial candidates for the Supreme Court, Associate Justice, NC Court of Appeals Judge, NC Court of Appeals Judge, seat 14 and 12, and also 15. I think those are for what they are, and they have like a brief synopsis of both the Republican Democratic nominees, and yeah, so I got that in the mail as well, so you can check that out. I don't know if you can see that. Yes. But what I would like to do now is I would like to think that I'm on schedule-ish, kind of. When I say schedule, kind of where I wanted to be with regards to uh, things that this kind of brought to my attention. So the next thing is to talk about this right here. And I didn't see whether or not
We have a shared commitment.
Would you be interested in collecting 5-figure paychecks for a few hours of work, helping me in your spare time from home?
As
so. All right. So this particular guy, I don't know if anybody is aware of this guy. His name is Roland S. Martin. Again, you can check out I will put the link for his channel in the description. After I've uploaded this, done any edits that I would need to be able to check it out. But he was live for about an hour and 30 minutes, no, 2 hours and 30, excuse me, 2 hours and 38 minutes. And I can't remember exactly where I fit in on this particular broadcast, but I think it was somewhere along the line when he was talking with his panel, and then he was mentioning that he was going to be talking to, or he had interviewed Kamala Harris. So obviously, given the fact that we're near an election, I thought it was kind of cool, so I started listening. So I think right about here is where I was interested. Let's see. Where are we? He introduces this guy. So let's just take this.
First, are you registered? 2, do you vote? And every
also have black men in their families.
been happening.
All right. So the general notion, Harris's agenda for black men, Harris's Pennsylvania rally, and this coincides with another video by Jericho Green that I saw, which talked about Obama chastising black men for not voting, or who they were going to vote for. Now, I didn't hear this particular speech other than what the small piece that Jericho Green put up. But I'm not going to say that I thought exactly what he thought. Maybe I had some slightly different take than what he did. But again, to me, it was contrasting takes in the first place. Let's see. Salute. Hey, DJ Nick. I remember that name from, I think, Echo's channel. And in all immunity, hey, what's up? Thanks for showing up, you guys. I'm kind of rambling, I guess. Maybe not so much, but I had a couple things that I was interested in, and so I thought I'd talk about it. So anyway, let's see what Roland Martin is talking about. It's right around here that he begins. He talks to this one guy. I don't remember his name, but I won't go too far.
Playing racial politics, white folks do that. Yeah, actually had turned the mic off. That was Congresswoman Maxine Waters' call. I got to call her back. They play racial politics all the time, and the reality is they need to be challenged as well on what the hell their numbers look like. Chris Toller, he's the director of the Black Voter Project, co-founder of Black Insights Research, joins me now from Sacramento. And again, all of these people, all of these folks, Chris, they going on and on and on, and now everybody and their mama want to analyze the black vote. Okay, and then what all these networks are doing are sending these silly ass reporters out there to interview brothers playing basketball. But here's what they never ask, Chris. They never first say, "Are you registered?" Then they never asked, if you are registered, when's the last time you voted? So
Now, first of all, I think that is what caught my attention, and to boot, that is what goes to show you that these type of things matters. What he's talking about is the very piece of mail that I just told you that I received talks about the fact that I voted previously. Now, obviously, there's going to be some record of my ethnicity, and they may have sent it to everybody. Don't get me wrong, but as a black man who I am definitely not going to not vote. You can call me undecided or whatever you want to call me. Whether or not I vote for Kamala Harris or Trump, the one thing that I'm not going to do is not vote. And I think that's the most important thing. And I think that the history of voters in general speaks for what you can expect them to do and the effect that they're going to have as well. And I think this is what he alludes to.
then all of a sudden, oh my goodness, NBC, we went out and talked to a group of black men, and all of them are voting for Trump. When Don Lemon was walking around talking to people, and all networks have done that, but they don't ask that important question. First, are you registered? Two, do you vote? And everybody and their mama now got an opinion on black men, and none of them are actually looking at data. And the last point here, Chris, before I go to you, they just take whatever poll white mainstream media puts out and just take it as fact. I saw one, oh my goodness, according to this poll, Donald Trump is getting 26% of the black vote. Another poll, 2 out of 5 black men are going to vote for Donald Trump. And I'm like, not now one black poll has showed any of that.
Now I'm going to break something down. So I used to vote third party Chase Oliver. See, now I haven't checked out Chase Oliver. Just listening while at work, travel away. Thanks, and all immunity. I've not checked out the third party candidate, but I will. I probably will do something that says, but I'm going to say something about this. What is it that I want to say? So I have been getting a lot of, we're going to call them scam calls, because I have a different perception and perspective of telemarketer calls now. One, because of my mother's situation, her being scammed. 2, because I get them all the time. But I also intermingled with those. I mean, they're getting very creative. It's almost always the same area code that you are in. So a lot of times I was answering the call because I thought it might be like the VA hospital, for example, or I had done something, given my card out to somebody on the golf course or something like that, and I didn't recognize the number, and I was expecting a call maybe, and so I would answer. But now, basically, I have stopped answering any call that doesn't identify themselves as, family or whatever, that's not in my list. Not because I'm afraid, but simply because I don't want to be bothered. But the reason why I mention that is because there used to be a time, and not to say that black people are this way, but there was a joke that said, when I'm not gonna say it. I'm not gonna say that. It was funny, but what I'm going to say is that there used to be a time where I had a lot of debt. owed a lot of creditors, and I never answered my phone. And nowadays, when people are polling you, they call you and ask if you would be interested in taking a poll. Well, if you're not answering your phone, then you're not even privy to the poll, and there's no other way for them to get the information. So, how worthy or accurate are these polls in the first place? Like you said, you know, I don't know how polls are happening routinely normally, but if you want to know about how, for example, a black man is going to vote, then maybe you should poll them in the places that they are, like a barbershop, for example, or church or whatever. But the club, hell, maybe you should go see them in the club. No. Anyway, but I think he makes a valid point. I'm not if there is a poll to be had or to be given to me, I'm not going to hear it or take it because I'm not answering the phone. I'm playing with them in the first place because I think they're stupid.
Nothing, Roland. Thanks again for having me on. I think that, just to reiterate this point, the narrative about black men voting for Trump has been blown out of proportion ever since Biden was the nominee. Even back then, the number of black men supporting Trump was not any higher than in 2020. And the data that I have suggests that it's actually dropped since Harris took over the ticket. And so we're seeing less black men saying that they're going to vote for Trump now than we did when Biden was the nominee. And so that number has been steadily decreasing. We really expect it to continue to decrease, especially as we move towards the election. And we actually are looking, as you said, at people that are actually going to vote rather than those that are just being polled. And a lot of times you see these likely voter polls, but then you look at the black subsample where they are just trying to get people in, right? They don't have any history or real record of polling black folk. And so they end up with a good percent of even their likely voter sample is made up of people who haven't voted, didn't even vote in 2020.
Interesting. Again, I am learning just from this piece of mail. I mean, it's not that you can't intuitively see that the history of whoever you're polling matters. And if you just randomly poll people that don't have a history, then it doesn't matter as well. And there's a deeper level of why it is that I'm interested in this whole entire thing. Again, it goes back to what my wife and I were talking about. And so I'm going to get to that very quickly because we got about, I have time to get there because I'm just a little bit behind from where I thought I would be, which is fine. Because I want to get it out. It's itching my soul. But so we understand that this gentleman here, along with Roland, are kind of discovering that the polls that they have out there asking black men, for example, may not be as accurate or grounded in information that matters as they should be. And that makes sense if they're not doing the right thing. So let's get to some of the interview that he does with Vice President Kamala Harris. So let's see.
I'm Kamala Harris, and I approve this message.
I get it.
Okay.
The cost of rent, groceries, and utilities is too high. So here's what we're going to do about it. We will lower housing costs by building more homes and crack down on landlords who are charging too much. We will lower your food and grocery bills by going after price gougers who are keeping the cost of everyday goods too high. I'm Kamala
Sorry, this is one that I can't pass.
Harris, and I approve this message because you work hard for your paycheck. You should get to keep more of it.
Yes,
As
we all do.
president, I'll make that my top priority.
Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Devon Frank.
I'm Dr. Robin B., pharmacist and fitness coach, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Madam Vice President.
Roland
Glad to have you
Martin.
here. Ready to bring the funk?
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Let's get right to it. So right
Okay.
before I walked out there, someone posted a clip, and usually the clip, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do anything specifically for African Americans. But folk don't talk about what you said right before when you said that public policy that benefits Black folks, it benefits everybody else.
Right.
Even we look at historically, Civil Rights Act, Voting Rights Act, it actually didn't just impact African Americans, it impacted everyone else. But talk about that, because so many people have only clipped that one part without understanding the public policy implications.
That's too bad. That's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. Right. So you know that, I mean, going back even before, but Dr. King was very clear, right? If you have certain policies that recognize, one, that not everybody starts out on the same base. If you have public policy, and I'm talking about economic public policy specifically at this point, but if you have public policy that recognizes historical barriers, and what we need to do then to overcome, first speak truth about them and then overcome them, that in the process of doing that, not only are you directly dealing with the injustices and the legal and procedural barriers that have been focused on Black folks, but by eliminating those barriers, everyone actually benefits, right?
Yeah, I think on some level, what she is saying is something that I've intimated, even when I was discussing different things with Jillian specific when we had a show together. I am not into victimology on any level. Be victimization, victimology, whatever you want to call it, whereby I feel like, I am doomed to have these set of circumstances happen to me because of the color of my skin or the circumstances in which I was raised. In fact, excuse me, on many levels, the sacrifices that my mother as a single parent made in order to ensure that I don't talk like a fool or act like a fool, even though there were times in my life that I did act like a fool, but at the end of the day, that I recognize and understand what it is that I should be and do as a man first, a Black man second, to contribute to society, is the way that I think. But the history of it all prior to me does matter, and how my government, the people who I surround myself with, that is a community, a neighborhood, etc., the way that we operate to keep those things from happening continuously matter. Now, call that culture, because we do tend to live in areas where other people that look like us live. But if you don't happen to live in an area where there are the people that are the same, then the people who are surrounding you, your neighbors, for example, whether they be white, Mexican, Chinese, etc., they all should have some semblance of what is right for humankind in general. So, on many levels, do I just think that I try to exist with people. I don't like the notion that there's this war looming and it's a race war. I don't subscribe to that notion at all. And for it to be put upon me, for example, that I should or should not vote a certain way because of, one, the color of my skin, that puts a lot of pressure on a person. I think when I was thinking about this, I was like, man, it is kind of a daunting task to think about, how am I going to vote, or how am I going to look if I vote a certain way? So I don't even really think of it in that light. I really don't. But, for him to sit down and have these conversations, now I'm just thinking out loud, so I'm rambling again, but it's the way my mind began thinking when I started listening to this. Oh, shoot. Let's see.
As president, what I have named an opportunity economy that taps into the ambitions and the aspirations and the dreams of the American people, and then addresses those in a way that recognizes, unlike my opponent who was handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, not everyone has access to those kinds of resources. But when you give people access to those resources, they thrive and we all benefit. Opportunity economy. That's why I say I'm going to make sure that we give
first-time home buyers with $25,000 down payment assistance. Because again, we know that when you look at the history of how Black folks have been denied the opportunity for home ownership, be it redlining or what we know has still been happening around a bias in home appraisals, that it is a barrier to achieving intergenerational success. But when we address it by doing things like helping folks get their foot in the door with a down payment assistance, they will have the ability to be on that track of intergenerational wealth building.
Now, I've talked with, let's see, we are the permanent trust. Let's see. That's another thing that I haven't done. Sorry. Let me go to where I can go. Comments. Sorry, you guys. I have not been doing this part, which I should have done. But I'm going to put this on, which I think Todd is going to vote for her. Finkel in the house. Good to see you. And he puts, I think Todd is going to vote for her. All right. Who knows? Do not vote for third party unless it's a right and fair. Oh, shoot. That, you know what? If I write in anybody, it will be David for sure. We are the government. End All Community says we are the government. Trust us. We are all here to help. Nice. I like it. All right. What was I was gonna say before that. It was about, so now I still am interested, and I had some interest in what they call redlining. She's kind of alluding to it, where it talks about housing, and I'm not sure if this applies to land as well. But I discovered recently, because of my family dealings or whatever, that my grandfather and his siblings, for a very, very long time ago, that they co-opted to own land in Georgia. And, you know, my grandfather was a miser. He was around during the time when people did those kind of things, where they hoarded bonds and land and money and all those kind of things. Not only because that was the time that was required for you to do that, or at least that people did that. You know, my wife's mother she was kind of old. She's the youngest of 8. They lived during that time when the Depression was there, etc. But I know for a fact that they had other challenges when it comes to owning property and land. I mean, when I say property and land, I mean houses as well. So I think her touching on this on whatever level, she's alluding to the fact that, like Dr. Martin Luther King said, you have to recognize the history of some things in order to move past it. And I think more people than not are probably thinking, well, it's been so long ago, and can we just move on? And of course we can just move on. But if we just forget what history has told us, then I think we're doing ourselves a disservice. I think that's what I do when I say this kind of thing. And I think that's probably what she means. And maybe some other people. And of course, when we dwell on racial type things and racial issues, then we probably get bogged down in all of it. So I don't want that at all. I don't think anybody really truly wants that. And anybody who kind of gets us there is not somebody I want to be with. And I'm not saying that I think that Trump is somebody that will put us there. I'm not saying that I think that Kamala Harris is somebody that will take us away from that. So I'm just saying they gave and state. Let's see. They gave and stole back the acres, and they never came through with the mule. That's true. They never came through with the mule. We probably would have eaten it anyway. All right. Let's see. There's probably another couple of points that I wanted to hear her talk about.
You know those stories about a Black family is trying to get their home appraised. They want to get a second mortgage. They want to sell the house, whatever. And they bring in the appraiser. The appraiser looks around, looks at the family pictures, and appraises it for less than it's worth. The family knows that. They're not stupid.
The Black folks got to remove photos.
So
books,
then they
DVDs,
remove photos and everything else, right? They remove
all the blackness.
all of that. And then they ask a white family that's a friend of theirs, come in, they put up their pictures, and the house gets appraised for more. Racial bias, we're taking that on for the first time. And I want to give due credit to former Secretary of HUD, Marcia Fudge, for being a leader on that. These are the things we've taken on. And as president, to your point about supply, I'm going to create tax incentives for home builders and developers to build 3 million new housing units by the end of my first term, because a big part of jacking up the prices has been the supply is not meeting demand, so the prices are higher.
Now he talks about if I'm encouraging you to check out. Well, I don't know if there's any other place where this interview is, but you can go through and check out what he talks about after the interview. He talks about one that he didn't have as much time as, like Howard Stern, and he names a bunch of other people, but he wished he would have had that time because he would have asked her this, and that. But he does talk about how there is a graph that he shows about the decrease in the supply of houses, which has caused the price to go up, supply and demand type things, which I think is what she's trying to address. Now, I am personally interested, having heard this, for example, I would like to see, is it even possible to build 3 million homes in 4 years? I don't even know if that's possible or not, but it seems like an ambitious ass goal. And what would it do if they can show it? I mean, I think I would be all for it. It may just be in my blood. I like property. I like land. I like houses. I don't have the wherewithal to buy something that's completely dilapidated and then go through and fix it and then flip it. I'm not that guy. But I think that there are things that can be done with land, for example, that will help and property that will help to build generational health. If you take that away from somebody, that's problematic. I think that's kind of a plus in my mind for her. But I don't even know if it's possible to do 3 million homes in that. That seems like a lot. So we got about we have plenty of time, but I want to talk about the conversation that my wife and I had. I need to use the restroom. I can hold. So once again, go through. Because actually, there's one other video that I want to show, and then I'll talk about what my wife. So let me find the. Oh, that's what. Excuse me. All right. I don't know why I'm so burpy. Although I'm a grown man and I don't burp, I belch, but the way I did it was kind of baby-like. So let's put that here. Roland Martin. This is a.
Did you know that you could be generating 10 grand a month or more by simply teaching other?
All right. So this is Jericho Green, and the name of it is Obama chastises black men for not supporting Kamala Harris. The nerve. This one is 17 minutes, and I don't know if I know specifically where I want it to go, so bear with me, but we'll start it and see where we go. I think I'm just going to put it to where what Obama says, but let's hear what he talks about first.
Well, good day. And to vote for the timeless safety of gold. On everybody. Make sure you give me a follow on X at @green_. What is happening around here? I hope you like.
Good for you.
I am pissed. I'm hot, as my dad would say. I'm mad as a wet hen. Why? Damn it, Obama. That some bitch, Barry Obama. He sure knows how to insult black folks for being the first black president. Being for the black community, he sure knows how to insult black folk. And in this particular situation, this particular instance, he's insulting black men. Why? How? I was always told
How
you
do
could
you
get more B's with titties. No. Hold on, that's not it. What do bees make? Oh yeah, you get more bees with honey. My bad. The titties will get bees too.
Okay. Once again, as I said before, I believe Jericho Green is very entertaining. And it's not that I disagree with him, because the previous video that I looked at, like I tell you, elicited a response that caused me to want to look for more information. So if that is a goal of his, then he's accomplished it, and I can continue listening to him and not feel like he's browbeating me for something. And now in this case, he does have an interesting take about what Obama says, and so that's just the lead up to it. So I think we'll let it talk a little bit more, but after that, then I'll let you hear what Obama says, and then I will quickly talk about the conversation that my wife and I had.
Because she's done nothing. Because she is nothing. Because her head is full of nothing.
He's talking about Kamala Harris not having a record of, man, I did not mean to put you in that light. Let me just put this right here. I got somebody. I guess, can you clip that? That wasn't the best place to stop. And you know, okay, so she's vice president. She's never, people say, well, she doesn't have any policies to stand on, et cetera, et cetera. I think all of her policies would basically be in development right now, right? But she's put them out there for us to all look at. And arguably Trump has his policies out there, but that, whatever you call that document that he says that that's not his document. I guess there's other places that we can look, but I'm going to go to where Obama is talking. Man, he looks like he might have aged a little bit.
Check it out. I'll let you see it yourself. Go ahead, Barry. Tell the black men, how disappointed in them you are.
I'm going to go ahead and just say,
I agree.
Speak some truth, if you don't mind.
Uh-oh.
Because my understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities,
on the grapevine,
is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw.
You pieces of shit.
Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers.
The brothers.
So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all.
The brothers. See, you can't talk to black folks the same way you talk to white folks. You got to use that language. You got to say it's more pronounced with the brothers.
So now I am not saying that. I mean, he knows what he's talking about, and I'm just going to put it this way: if I'm in court, or doing a live, for example, I mean, I have the ability and propensity to speak a certain way. I do, naturally. But I used to frequent a function whereby we would go in, me and a bunch of other black guys, and we play dominoes and spades. And we all talked a certain way. So sometimes the company that you keep welcomes a certain way of speaking with each other. I mean, I don't know how to explain it any other way, and I am absolutely confident that Jericho Green knows this, but he holds it against this individual, that being Barack Obama, because he's speaking a certain way. But when you speak to an audience, when you speak with people, shouldn't you connect with them on the level that you can? I don't think that he's connecting this way because he's just trying to do something. I think that he does that naturally. We've seen little clips jokingly of Barack Obama. I think it was Peel, the Peel guy. I can't think of the other guy that they're a group, something in Peel, where he would be shaking people's hands, and then when he gets to a black person, he gives them like a dap and a hug. It's a joke, but we get it for a reason, and I'm certain Jericho Green knows this. So
Because Barack Obama talks like this at home. You know what I'm saying? He don't say black man. He says the brothers, sisters. Man, if you don't shut your Harvard ass up.
So how much did it cost to fill your tank?
Almost $100.
How much is the car payment?
$140.
And say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you,
middle class
went to
neighborhood,
college with you,
with you,
understands the struggles and pain, and joy that comes from those experiences.
With you, not with you, with you.
Who's had to work harder.
all right, so we get it. So he has a problem with this notion, and he says, now we all know about how titles are. Check it out for yourself. I'm going to review what the whole entire video is. I think when I saw the title last night, if I remember correctly, I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. And I was listening to it. I saw like the beginning of this, and I may have fallen asleep for the rest. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to check it out. I don't think we have enough time to do it here. And again, I like to encourage people to go to hear it from the horse's mouth. Not only possibly, it says ABC here, right? So, excuse me. It says ABC here. So it's probably not that clear because I have it in the same kind of perspective as I have him. But check it out for yourself. Check out Jericho Green. He's very entertaining. He makes me think about things that I want to know more about. And so that's why I continue to listen to him. Okay. So I'm going to have this conversation with you all about what I had with my wife. We were talking about politics. And when I say politics, I mean she concedes that she's never been a person that's been involved in politics that much. She's never been, quote unquote, a voter or anything like that. And part of the reason why is because she never felt it would be fair to the process for her to vote on something that she wasn't aware of. So we've come to North Carolina. We both, she's from Utah. I lived in Utah for 30 years, a state that I don't think ever has voted Democratic. It's always been Republican. And so that was that. And we come here, same type of situation, but the conversation we began to talk about was how the electorate process was. Now I'm going to tell you, over the years, I've learned how it goes, and there are still some nuances about it that I'm not quite too keen on, but I have a general knowledge of how it goes. And I was describing to her how our state, amongst all of the other states, save two, are all or nothing electorate votes. That you earn all of the electorate votes or none of them at all. And her comment to me was that, well, she felt that it should be like, let's say if it was 13-1, if the total number of votes was 14, electorate votes was 14 for a state, and one person voted Democratic and the other voted Republican, or the other way around if you wish, that she felt that the one vote should go to where it went, and the other vote should go to, the other 13 should go to the Republican side. And her statement was, after I explained to her that's not the way it is, but only in two states. I think I want to say Maine and Vermont. I can't remember which two states it is, but there are two states. She said, well then, why do I need to vote? Now I began to try to commit, or my vote is not important then. If you can vote in a way as a person, the popular vote, if you can vote in a way, and then the person who's voting for you, that i.e. the electorate, is still compelled to vote. All their votes go to something else. She's like, there's no need for me to vote. Now, for me personally, when she said that, I really wanted to kind of convince her otherwise. No, your vote is important because at the local level, you can have pockets of areas that are Democratic, and then there's other ones where there's Republican, all that stuff. But she made me think of how easy it is for a process to make a person not do something. For example, we've heard of, or maybe you have not heard of, gerrymandering, whereby certain process, including like boundaries, are formulated in such a way that it discourages people from voting. And things like, for example, ID. Everybody probably says, or at least I think it's reasonable for a process to know or be able to determine that the individual who is voting is the person who cast that. So if you, for example, like in North Carolina, if you do not have an ID card, they will allow you to vote, but you have to, on some level, at a different date, qualify the fact that you voted. So they have a way of trying to account for it. But the conversation that her and I had basically made me think of all of the types of things that could be made to keep a person from voting. And in her case, it's just as simple as saying, if my vote doesn't actually, if I voted a certain way and the person who I'm telling to vote, that is the elected person, doesn't vote that way, but they have some kind of process where all of their votes vote and the whole state vote this way, she's like, I don't want to be a part of that. Imagine if that's just her not being threatened or anything, but imagine if you were faced with, for example, the notion of possibly losing your life because you voted. You may just say, I'm not going to do it. So the deception to me for it all is that there are so many ways that can conveniently be put up to keep people from doing something that otherwise would benefit them. To me, I mean, I may not have described what was going through my mind just now the way that I wanted to, like how powerful it was that she was as compelled not to vote as I was to say, well, even my one vote, even though I know North Carolina is likely going to vote Republican, I'm still going to vote because it matters locally for me, and then eventually local actions will trickle up to the president, the presidential election. So that was a conversation we kind of had. We had a debate about the legality of ID. Let me see. Finkel says the designers of the Constitution intended for the state legislatures to pick their electoral slates however they want. Most states use their popular votes, not all. Okay. I see. And we had a debate about the legality of ID to vote at a recent DNC meeting. We just came down with just bring your ID. Yeah, and I agree. And I'm not saying, it's funny because my sister and I were talking about how when we were growing up, my mother, until we got big enough to do otherwise, we used to carry our IDs, our military dependent IDs, around our neck because we traveled, like in Japan, for example, we were traveling on the train for 40 minutes, 30 minutes to get to another place and travel another 20 minutes on the bus. So we just needed to have our ID cards. And so that's how we did it. And I never leave out of the house without an ID. Now, given the company that I keep, meaning this community, and I say this community because it comprises of multiple types of people doing multiple types of things, all under the guise of, auditing, for example. But we don't always feel compelled to show our IDs just for the sake of doing it, and officers will nearly always ask for ID. Now, I recognize that I don't have to show you an ID absent a crime, but I'm likely have it on me. But I think people may also decline to carry their ID because if, for example, an officer says, "I'm just gonna check for weapons," and they feel a wallet, somehow they're gonna get that and still identify you. So, anyway, long story short, it is an important time, which 20 days from now, we're going to all, or most of us, hopefully, do something. We're going to have a president elected. Um, God be with our country, whoever that is. I just hope and pray that that as a nation, we don't continue to do this. I say at the end of my shows normally something to the effect of whether you be on the right side or the left side, ideologically, politically, etc., that all I care is that you meet me somewhere in the middle. And when I say that, I simply mean that if we keep going this way, we're never going to come to a meeting of the minds. But maybe if we go closer to the middle, there's some space that we both can live with and we can agree upon, and then we can continue to have some type of a conversation. Otherwise, it's problematic. We face the race wars, we face, this, all the different things that lead us down a path that I don't even want to go. So, with that said, I appreciate all of you all who joined today and participated. Thank you so much. Nico, I don't know if you care to or not, but I'm going to put you down for having a wrench. I trust that you will do what you can with it whenever you're around. So, unless you just specifically say, "Don't give it to me, I don't want it," you might want to drop a link or something when you're ready. Appreciate it. And everybody else who came, thank you very much for joining me. My name is Dr. Madness, otherwise known as Craig. I was going to mention about my Reddit page and the subreddit, which I have. You're welcome, Pickle. Which is Eyes Front. I don't know if I began to explain, but in the military, when they say Eyes Front, it's a call to attention. I would like for people to be able to, when you get a public record, for example, have a place that everybody knows that you obtain those records, and then therefore you can go back and somebody else can do it. Because I'm doing a big, huge public records request in Florida right now. My friend, he was arrested. He was placed in a restraint chair, and handcuffs were used, according to what he's told me. And he submitted a request for records, and a lot of it was not submitted, not given to him. So I made a similar request, and they tell me that it would cost $500 to $700 to get it. But of course, if somebody previously did it before, then you don't have to pay twice. So it's those type of things that I want us to be able to see. I would like for people to say, "Hey, I have this issue. I have this thing going on in government, whatever, blah blah blah," and then people who are interested will, seek records and make public records requests, and we accomplish something. But we're more powerful together than we are apart. So I think the more eyes we have on a situation, then the more success we have. So if I can make it so that it eventually does that, then that would be good. So it's an attachment to my channel, and I'm still trying to get my mind wrapped around this Reddit thing. But anyway, I know that there's this big, huge, frauditors subreddit, and they're always posting in there. So maybe we can do a little bit something. All right. So, quickly, I used to do my show on Tuesday. It turns out that I donate plasma, and I decided that I was going to change it to Tuesday. And the reason why I'm doing that is because KFC has an 8-piece bucket for $10 on Tuesday. Normally I pay $13.99 for 9. So it was a very easy decision for me to donate plasma and then go to KFC and then have my 8 pieces of chicken. And then I think the other day was Friday. But I'm very close to, you might see, those of you who are subscribers, very close to getting to my next milestone, which is 500 subscribers. The thing that I'm lacking in is watch hours. So I'm going to ask that if you watch the content, that as much as you like it or dislike it, do something, either subscribe, put a thumbs up or down, and watch it as much as you can, because I need those watch hours. But I do appreciate you all being here. I will be here again on Wednesday with something, and I'm going to be working on the things that I told you that I'm going to be working on. One, my friend's situation. I'm not sure if he's going to make it do any litigation with it. I think he is, but he has asked me to bring him on. We talk about his situation, and so I will. I'm going to most likely have my show on Wednesdays, every Wednesday, unless I'm on vacation or something, at 1300 hours. 13 is my favorite number, so that's what we're going to do that. And then I'm going to try and put much more content than I consume out there, which is going to be hard, but I'm saying I haven't been putting out much content. I've been on vacation mostly this summer because my daughter wasn't with us this summer, so we traveled. So that got in the way, but I'm going to do my best to get it out. Is this a friend, a YouTube personality? No. Let's see. What was it before? I used to sell my plasma and use the money for beer. Yeah, those days are over. It's funny because I actually the place where I go, they're putting in a lot of things. Like you have to make an appointment now, which is much more arduous of a task than I want to be involved with. I want to be able to just go when I want to. I don't want to make an appointment. And then they used to pay $40 for the first time and $80 to $100 the second time, depending on what they're having a promotion or whatever. Now they do $55 and $55. So they give me less money, and then they make it harder for me to go to a place where I'm spending my own time. And it's just becoming. But I've been doing it for 7 years. They showed me the amount of money that I've made in my donations just at this place alone for the 3 years that I've been here. And the guy was helping me get into the account. He's like, "Oh my gosh, look how much you've donated." I'm like, "Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if there's anybody that you want to make sure keeps coming back, it's me." They're gonna piss me off, and they're gonna make it so that I don't want to go anymore. I'm gonna do something else. I'm gonna be making videos with you guys, right? Then we can not have to work. YouTube's gonna have to make a difference for what I get out of my arms. You can't much beer for that. It was a lot less back in the days. Yeah, I used to be a pint a day drinker. I don't drink anymore, but I used to drink a lot. I'm with you. I took a different path than you have apparently, but some of the same concepts are the same. It was too hard for me to think about, a year, 2 years, 3 years, or never. I just started basically one day at a time, not drinking, and that worked for me. So, and then same thing with smoking. I don't smoke anymore, so I can't stand it. I mean, I say can't stand it, but I don't even have the desire to smoke. It's not like that anymore. I decided I wanted to stop. I had my last cigarette on like some day before the 1st of January, and I literally have not thought about smoking after that. There's a couple of times where I have seen a nice looking butt on the ground, and I've picked it up. And for some reason, I didn't get a match or a light or anything like that, and I just never lit it up. But those were only 1 or 2 times. And again, I haven't smoked for 10 months now. 10 months and 16 days. Yeah, you enjoy that. All right, guys, I will now end the show, and I'm going to do it a different way, which I haven't done before. So I'm just working on something. But again, it's Back to Madness. My name is Craig. Join me next time. Until the next time we see each other. Peace.
Confusion. Please don't confuse us, let me explain. The object of this game, let's all play the same. Don't question the madness, embrace the change. The superior man seeks truth, that's his aim. He who knows all the answers ain't been asked enough. Life's like a puzzle, you gotta call his bluff. Yes, fact the madness, let the truth guide us. In the arena of debate, we'll all rise up, question the madness. Oh, don't you see, in this crazy world, it's the only key to find the truth, the answers we seek. So let's all rise